Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack and Dave here, and we're going to be giving our reactions to Simon Jordan backing Ange Postecoglou. I'm an avid Talk Sport listener, as Dave knows, and I was watching some the other day, and I listened to Simon Jordan being asked about Ange Postecoglou, and he had this to say about, maybe telling Spurs fans as well as the Spurs board to hold their nerve when it came to Ange. And he said, "I'd like to see Tottenham hold their nerve. I don't think Spurs are going to get relegated at all, but we do see that their season will be defined in the next 6 to 7 games." And you might think of this as kind of an ordinary quote, Dave, but what I'm kind of taking issue with is him sort of saying that the season is going to be defined in the next 6 to 7 games. I feel like our season has kind of been defined already at this point. We are in pretty much the mire. We're sitting around 14th, 15th. For a while, I was suggesting, you know what, it's maybe, kind of a misnomer. The league table, it's so compact right now. You look at the distance between ourselves and the European spots, it is a considerable one, and it will
Mm.
take some real winning form in order to get back up there. Whenever that will come, I'm not even sure. So for him to say that we need to give Postecoglou, as much as I've defended Ange, as much as I've been a big believer in Ange, to give him 6 to 7 games, I joked to you off screen. I think that'd be like, practically in March by that stage. I mean, I don't know if Ange Postecoglou has that long in the job. I think the season is already been defined or is at least starting to be defined. And to say that these next 6 to 7 games will define it, I think Simon's on the, maybe on the Daniel Levy train again. And maybe he was playing some pickleball with him recently and is trying to make it look like, the Spurs' situation isn't as bad as it looks. But maybe I'm still emotional, Dave. Maybe I'm still playing off recency bias. So what do you think of this quote? And this was something that just stood out to me. It was just a little gimmick, a little bit of a teaser from a talk sport kind of back and forth between Jim and Martin Keown, his favorite.
Well, I'm glad I don't have to listen to any Martin Keown quotes, first of all. But look, I wonder how much of that is what Daniel Levy has told him, what the club's plan is, right? Like you said, they speak regularly and stuff like that. So I just wonder, is he putting out what Daniel Levy has told, maybe how long the club are going to have patience for him to a certain degree. Also, I do think, maybe there is something to listen to there. You got to remember Simon Jordan has managed, did own Crystal Palace, is used to being in these sort of situations. So, I think there's something there too, maybe listening to that experience, maybe about holding fire. But look, lastly, I can also understand what he's saying in terms of, Spurs season will be defined in the next six games. Like when you look at our next six fixtures, we've got Hoffenheim coming up and we've got Esberg coming up. That'll decide whether we're going into a playoff or we're out in the top eight in the Europa League. Then you've also got Leicester, Brentford, Man United, and Ipswich coming up in the Premier League. Four games that ideally you need to be taking at least 9 points from. You do that, you stave off relegation. You look at Leicester, Ipswich, Man United, all in around us or below us. Brentford, where we want to go to. So, if we could pick up wins there, it staves off that relegation talk. And then you're also looking at the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final, and then also the Aston Villa Cup game in the FA Cup. So I do understand what Simon Jordan's saying. And look, Jack, I understand what you're saying, right? In terms of league, where we are in the league, it's becoming so concerning. It's almost taking precedent over the cup competitions right now in terms of Spurs fans' eyes. And in the league, it's certainly, to a degree, it's already decided, right? We ain't kicking on to salvage a European spot in the league and stuff like that. However, it's still on in terms of trophies. And this is one
Mm.
of Spurs fans' big gripes. We're in a semi final of a cup. We could avoid the two-legged playoff in Europa, which avoiding more games would certainly help, the injury situation to a certain degree. And then, the FA Cup as well, which we already slapped Villa up, already earlier on this season. So I do understand what Simon Jordan is saying, Jack, but I think the problem we have right now is how much more rope are people willing to give Postecoglou in the league?
Mhm.
Although many people said, look, we don't really care too much about the league in terms of where we finish in the top half of the table, but no one wanted us to be in this situation. No one expected us to be down this bottom half of the table. And that's where I think the urgency comes in and around Spurs fans.
No, it feels like we're in that sort of crazy scenario, which maybe we've joked about before. It's like, would you take 15th if it meant, kind of going to a cup final or something like that? And I think a lot of Spurs fans in a lot of cases would say yes, just out of sheer desperation. But we actually are in a way really playing out that scenario right now, and it is kind of difficult to go through. It kind of puts you in a real headspin. You're not really sure, what your team is, kind of capable of. Yes, they're capable of beating a very good team on their day, but they're also capable of losing to the worst of teams on their day, and it just
Yeah,
makes it a real, yeah, real head spinning one. And
we're
we're hearing right now, Dave, especially even Simon Jordan has mentioned this, a lot of fans who are still backing Ange or maybe aren't even, let's say, as I don't know, fed up, maybe like I'm starting to get, with this season. They're kind of not losing their nerve yet, like, Simon is suggesting here. A lot of fans would say, right, we're still in all the cup competitions, like nothing has, gone wrong there yet. Why are we losing our rag? It's just that with the way we're playing right now, I
yeah.
just am losing all hope that we would do anything against Liverpool. Maybe a couple of weeks ago, I did have some belief that, what, if we play just like we did the first time, and, we've shown recent sort of examples of that we can play very well. You know what? Yeah, maybe we could get something at Anfield and go to a cup final. Right now, I'm worried about getting slapped up 3-0, 4-0, and it being an easy job for
And
them. And that's where I get a little bit, I'm not even too sure if that's a valid kind of explanation or a valid excuse to say that we're still in all the cup competitions, because
mm,
the way we're playing right now makes me think we're going to get knocked out of them very quickly.
no, 100%. And this is where I sort of come around to your side of thinking on it. Like, you look at the performances, Tamworth, look, we can sit here and praise their endeavour. It's an easy
Yeah, we're
game on
still in
paper.
the.
It's an easy game on paper. We still should be beating them 3-4-0. The North London Derby, the lack of fight or the lack of effort. But then the Everton game, sort of the lack of urgency. The performances ain't getting any better. And the narrative we keep hearing, especially from Postecoglou, when we get players back. But the reality is, we got 2 back this week, but lost 4. And this is happening all the time. We're not getting any more.
Yeah,
As soon as we get players back, we're losing more. So it's not really alleviating the situation. But and I don't agree with Simon Jordan in terms of Spurs. Spurs won't get relegated. I mean, you're
yeah,
never
that's the
too
other
big to
part.
go down, Jack. I look at the forward line. I don't think we've got the goals in the team which you need in a relegation battle to be able to put points on the board. I don't think we've got the right characters in the dressing room that are up for the fight, because if we were, we would have seen that through this injury crisis. And also, I think, the captaincy of the club is all wrong. You're looking at Son and Madison to save his football
Yeah,
club as captains. But when you're in a situation like this, you can't have a guy going around, look, keep the head up, this, that. It only gets you so far, and it only works with a select few players like your Brennan Johnsons, people that are weak like that. But sometimes you need someone to put someone up against the wall and say, look, this is our livelihoods at stake.
yeah.
This is the football club I love at stake. Pull your bloody socks up. Give me what you can until the end of summer. If you don't want to be here, I'll help you get a move. But we don't have them sort of characters. And the thing is, I'm never ever going to sit here and say, oh, we're too big to go down, because you make enough wrong decisions like we have. And Jack, I warned you, you keep changing managers every 14 to 16 months. Last season, under Conte, we changed 3 managers in one season. I told you, it's what relegation clubs do. You're tempting fate. And this is where we are right now. So for me, I don't agree with Simon Jordan on that. But I think also, one area that's not being factored in right now, and I was guilty of it, the last couple of days, but I'm still on the opinion that, I do think maybe this just needs fresh ideas, and a change might help you stave off that relegation battle. But the reality is, Daniel Levy ain't going to go to a club and pay a relegation or pay a transfer fee to get out a manager out of the club. If you're the Bournemouth manager, do you really want to leave what he's building there to come to
Yeah.
Tottenham Hotspur? Not quite so sure. Thomas Frank, the reason why he works at Brentford is because they do everything they want him to do. Will he work out at Tottenham Hotspur? I'm not quite so sure. And the reality is, Daniel Levy, why we need players, he ain't going to squander 10 million on a manager either. So that rules that out. But also, you look at it, any manager worth their sort are going to look at the club and go, 10 injuries? No way am I signing on that dotted line. I'm already going to get off to a shit start. The problems are already there. Am I going to attach my name to that? I don't think so. So I think, in reality, I actually don't think the club have any other option but to see the next 6 games out and see where
Okay.
we end up.
I'm not even too sure if I'm still on like us, and I think we are dangerously close to actually having to have these sort of conversations about relegation battles, but I'm not sure if I'm totally there yet. What I'm just in fear of is that we are, I think, probably with the way we're playing right now, going to get knocked out quite quickly in most of the cup competitions
Mm.
we're in. And the way I see it too with Ange is that it feels like Daniel Levy is kind of just waiting, for him to get knocked out of these cup competitions, and then he'll probably sack him. That's just my conspiracy theory with Levy. It's just my feeling that we're getting a a similar thing to what happened with Jose, but maybe he's just trying to do the opposite here. Perhaps the way he sees it is I sacked Jose before final. I then ended up putting in someone like Ryan Mason. Everybody hated me. Everybody thought it was
Mm,
ludicrous. They're still talking about it to this day despite how poor things are right now with Ange. I think he's going to just try to do the opposite, where he's going to give Ange the Liverpool game. He's going to give him these Europa League games. Might give him the next FA Cup round. I'm not too sure. Probably some combination of those. Maybe not all of them, but he's going to give him these cup competition games. And if he doesn't win them, then I think he's going to probably pull the trigger and then end up
yeah.
sort of calling quits to this project with him. That's the way I see it. And so I'm not even too sure. Maybe
Mm,
Simon is actually right that it's season defining for Ange these next to six to seven games. Because if he hasn't been sacked by this point, I think he will get sacked in the next 6 to 7 games if he doesn't win some of these
mm,
very important cup games, which I think are the only things that are keeping him in the job right now with Daniel Levy, because we know how important that is to Spurs fans, and we
mm,
know how much Daniel Levy has messed that up in the past.
mm. And look, 100%. And look, my final words on it is I
Yeah,
think, look, Simon Jordan is the only owner out there on these radio
true.
stations talking from an owner's point of view. So I do think there is some part where maybe you have to lean on that experience, the way he's looking at it, Tottenham were what, 8 points above the relegation zone. You got relegation, teams coming up, you beat them, you stave that off, then it's all down to the cup competitions. And I think he's speaking from experience, but also
Yeah.
I think he's basically telling us what Daniel Levy's told him, to be quite frank, and I wouldn't be surprised, see
Whoa, yeah.
Postecoglou get the next 6 games, see where we are. And, if he wins, he'll continue on. If he doesn't, I think we'll sack him and look to bring in someone just to concentrate on the
True.
league and bring us up the league. So I do think what Simon Jordan is telling us is what Daniel Levy's told
Don't
him,
yeah,
basically.
don't rule out maybe I guess those words there. I don't think Spurs are gonna get relegated, and these next 6 to 7 games are season defining. There's a very likely possibility Daniel Levy has told him some combination of those words there, and he's said that to us, like you said, because they're very good buddies, and he's only just had an interview with him as well. So you wonder if that is coming
Mm.
through Daniel Levy in some sort of cheeky way. But everybody, thank you so much for watching this back. Smash the like button, please. Let us know what you thought of this video, and let us know what you think of some future ones. We're going to be doing plenty more of these pundit type reactions. So hopefully you
And
enjoyed this content. And yeah, Dave, take it away.
if there's any pundit reactions that we've missed and you want us to react to in the future, please let us know.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Come on, you Spurs.